Absolutely.
All right, so let's look at this. You find 150 grand in your backyard. What do you do legally?
That's called treasure trove. If you are finding a treasure trove on your property, and if you are the owner of the property, more likely than not, if nobody comes forward and claims it, saying it was lost or somehow they have an ownership interest in it, that treasure trove will go to the landowner. But if you find it on somebody else's land and you turn it in, again, it's going to go to the landowner, not the person who necessarily found it.
So if he's renting that house,
Could go to the owner of the property. But since you rent the house, you turn over all the property. So there's a lot of case law that relates to treasure trove findings. We've also seen a lot of litigation surrounding some sunken ships there was a passage going from bringing the California gold to the New York banks and so forth. And some of the companies that are very old, when some people find these sunken ships, make claims either through their insurance companies that have been around for that length of time, or just because the businesses have been around so long. They say, well, even though it's been under the water for 80 years or 100 years or 200 years, we've not abandoned that property. We just couldn't get to it. So thank you for finding it for us. Please turn it over.
now the other issue is, what if he doesn't report anything? Does he have tax problems?
Boy, that's a very interesting comment. I would say that my guess, and I'm guessing here, that it would be a taxable event, since it's something that you found and it is income to you. So I would say that it would be a taxable event, but I'm not a tax attorney.
A taxable event meaning that he might have to pay taxes
Sure,
on
but
it.
if you pay taxes on found money and it's $150,000, even if you pay 40%, you still walk away with $70,000 plus tax free after the event. So
But the other option is that if he just starts spending it and
slowly,
exactly.
as long as it wasn't like the Unabomber money or something like that, something along the lines that was used to,
to fund terrorism or anything like that.
Yeah, and there's actually some imprinted serial numbers on it that demonstrates that the money was used at some instance to pay somebody off.
Or if it was like stolen money, and all of a sudden you're at Strachan Van Til's, and all of a sudden, hello,
serial number 2268.
We wrote that one down. 219-845-1100. Hey, you're on the air. What's up?
Hey, good morning, Jed. How you doing? This is Eddie, Eduardo, long-time listener. How you doing?
What's going on, man?
All right, listen, man, I had a problem yesterday. I hate to interrupt your
Sure, go ahead.
show, but my granddaughter goes to O'Bannon School and got dropped off at the wrong spot for an hour and 20 minutes yesterday. My wife, myself, my daughter, and my son-in-law were scrambling around town looking for my granddaughter. I'm a person that, I guess I did a few things in the community. I know a lot of people. Jed, I didn't know who to call, what to do, what to say, how to console my wife, my daughter. A 6-year-old's missing, and no one has answers. There's a big flaw there. I took my granddaughter to the school city transportation. I walked into the door. There's a bus driver standing by the time clock. It says, "Hey, what a beautiful little girl. She looks so beautiful for the first day of school." I said, "Yes, the little girl that you all lost. The little girl that for the last hour and 20 minutes, my wife and I and everyone else has been looking for her. Someone needs to be held accountable. How do we address that? How do we correct it?" There is a procedure. There is a list of kids' names on each bus that are supposed to be there. But this bus driver told a 6-year-old little girl, "You have to get off here and you got to walk home." And she had told him, "This is not where I get dropped off at." I mean, I could not sleep last night. I thought about all the parents around the world that are missing kids. You never know what it is until you actually go through it. And let me tell you something. It's something that you just don't want to encounter. It's something that you just don't take for granted. A lot of things in life, your livelihood or whatever, until something like this happens to you. Why it happens, I don't know. Thank God she's home safe. But she was walking home. We live in the Slacker area. My daughter found her walking home on the Columbia Bridge between River Drive and 175th. And she had been missing already for like an hour. She tells us she's hungry, she's thirsty, that she was scared. How does she recover from that? Who's held accountable for that? The bus driver, the administrators. Who puts the kids on the bus? From what I understand, it's other students that help aides or whatever put students on the bus. Radio communication over the two-way radios, there was a flaw there because the bus driver was trying to contact dispatch and they could not get through because there was 3 other kids they were also missing. So there has to be something in place there. Like when a kid is missing, somebody needs to, I guess, stop what they're doing. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what, I don't even know what to think or say. I mean, I wanted to share that with the listener this morning. You're yourself.
Eddie, slow down because I want to back you up. All right, for just a second. So, it's your granddaughter, correct?
Yes.
She goes to school.
Yes.
And then on the way home, for whatever reason, she gets off at the wrong bus stop. Okay,
Yes.
How long before you guys figured that out?
Oh, immediately, because my nephew was at the drop-off point at the designated time in the designated area to pick her up, and she was not on that bus. And then when he told the bus driver, "Hey, where's my niece?" He's like, "He's not on it." So he tried to call two-way radio to dispatch. They didn't answer. Once, didn't answer. Twice. He gets on a cell phone. No one answers. He runs home and says, "She's not on the bus." "What do you mean she's not on the bus?" "I'm coming home from work." My wife is like, "We can't find her." I don't even know how are you even telling me this?
Okay, okay, all right. So you guys are in this state of confusion and panic, like every parent or grandparent or cousin or anybody would be. So how does it go from that to who finds her on the bridge?
My daughter, her mother, and her father, because we're all out looking for her.
And did you have any? So the mother and the father find. You know, I ride my bike over that bridge all the time, and I really try to. I should say I go that direction, and I'd much rather go underneath the bridge and go down to Northcott, because being on top of that bridge is not safe for a bike rider, let alone a 6-year-old kid. So, I mean, how did that happen? Did they just see your granddaughter walking?
Yeah, they were. I mean, we were already like. To the point, you know, a minute is like an hour, 2 hours, whatever. So they're on their way home trying to look to scout the area, and they see her walking. She was already on the extreme south end of the Columbia Bridge, because I took her over there and she showed me exactly where her mother and her father picked her up.
Okay, so hold on a second. So she walked from she had already walked over the bridge, or she was getting ready to walk over the bridge?
Oh, she crossed Columbia to the west side from 170. Well, the bus driver said he dropped to 177th and Linden, I believe it is. Street right behind that gas station on Columbia there.
Yeah, which is yeah, okay.
Yeah. So she crossed that street somehow. She said she looked both ways because she's taught that. And then she walked over the bridge, and it was scary for her walking over that bridge.
And she walked over the Columbia Avenue Bridge?
Yes. Where we found her.
And so she drops her off by Columbia Center, and then she walks over south to get over to Schlacker by Optimus Park. You guys must live over there somewhere. And nobody called in and reported a 6-year-old kid walking over that bridge?
No, not that. And then I was already, after about 15 minutes after I got home, I finally came to my senses a little bit to dial 911. I called the police, which the mother, the father, my wife, and nobody else had done yet at that time. And 45 minutes had passed by then already. The police wasn't even contacted yet. I mean, I was confused. I just didn't know what to do. They said to stay here, make sure that the cop was coming. I didn't know what to do. I mean, if I was able to drive, I wasn't going to be able to, concentrate driving anyway. I mean, I was just in a state of shock. I just didn't know what to do. I was afraid for my granddaughter. I'm glad that she's safe. There's a flaw. There's something I don't know. I mean, when someone says that they're missing a child on the bus system, there has to be a system in place where they say, hey, no one talks over the radio until this gets solved, right? I mean, that's a no-brainer. I don't know. I mean,
Eddie, I guess this doesn't, I don't know how this affects your situation, but the number one story in Chicago news today is the story of a kindergarten kid who got dropped off in Richton Park at the wrong spot, and all 3 news stations were all over it. And this sounds, quite frankly, I mean, it sounds even more egregious in that if your 6-year-old, was she a kindergartner or first grade?
First grade.
First grader walked over the Columbia Avenue Bridge over the Borman. That's
Yes.
just I don't know what to tell you. Can you hang on the line, Eddie? I want to get your phone number, okay?
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, thanks for sharing that with us, will you? All right.
And then everybody else out there, all the parents, please just don't take for granted that your kids get dropped off and they're going to be there all the time. Make sure that, I mean, all responsible parents are going to do what they're supposed to, but please don't take that for granted, because you never know what it feels like until it actually happens to you. Let me tell you, it is not a good feeling. It is just unexplainable. I just can't. I haven't had no sleep at all last night.
Okay. Oh, I do need to get. How is your granddaughter handling this?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to see what a little girl. I mean, all I know is I can't stop holding her. I can't stop being next to her. You know what I mean?
And here, Dave
All right,
Gladish
man. Thanks a lot,
joins me every other Thursday. He is a board-certified attorney, and a lot of times we go and we talk about law stuff, and we will get to some of that. But, Dave, what's your initial reaction to that story?
Well, I think there's several levels that would have to be addressed in reference to what happened in this instance. One, I think that they definitely need to make an appointment with somebody from the school so that's addressed to ensure that she is properly taken care of as relates to being dropped off in accordance with the parents' wishes. Two, I think they're very lucky that nothing terrible happened to the child here in this instance. If there is a claim against a school or governmental entity in the state of Indiana, there is a requirement that you file a notice of tort claim with the appropriate agencies within 180 days of the loss. So, I have no idea if the child's okay, then so be it. If they feel that there is a claim there, they have to do that within the statutory time period and serve the right entities in order to preserve their cause of action. If that is not done within 180 days, you lose your cause of action against a governmental entity. So whether it's a city, a town, a school district, you have to comply with those notice requirements. So it sounds like she's doing okay. I can see that being a very scary event, and I can see that being terrible for the parents as well. So they'll have to decide for themselves what they want to do.
You ride your bike.
I do. I rode it on the this last weekend. I rode on the Little Cal. Everyone talks about that. They really did do a nice job with that.
But you've ridden your bike over the Columbia Avenue
I have.
Bridge.
That's
You don't think about it when you're in your car, but all of a sudden there's just a kind of a thin little sidewalk there, and the girl, according to Eddie, crossed Columbia by Columbia Center, which is government housing, and then walked south all the way over the bridge. I can't believe nobody called on that.
That's a big bridge, but you do see kids out and about, and it does make me nervous when I do see, small children crossing busy locations, and you see it. I mean, it's a tough thing to think. Does a parent really know the child's walking in that location and so forth? In this instance, the child had it thrust upon her. She didn't have a choice.
All right, well, at this stage, Eddie is a caller, and I think he calls in reasonably regularly, and I've got his phone. And I'm going to follow up on this when I get off the air. At this point, it's alleged that, if you're just joining us, alleged that his 6-year-old granddaughter was dropped off near Columbia Center and then was the wrong stop, so she started walking over the Columbia Avenue Bridge, and he got her on the other side. Of course, in that time, the parents and everybody mobilized and so forth. But at this point, it's unconfirmed. So
Well, it's their perspective as to what happened.
Yeah, it's unconfirmed at this point. So I'll see what we can do after this. Now, the reason that this is, I don't know if this is something that's happening on a regular basis, but where Richton Park is. What is it?
I do.
It's kind of there's a big Richton Park metro station right across the state line. Say between Crete and Linwood, maybe.
Sure.
So it's not that far. There's people right now listening in Richmond Park. But the number one story, the lead story all over the place in Chicago, was a school bus driver dropped off a 5-year-old boy at the wrong stop in Richmond Park on the first day of kindergarten earlier this week. Kadir Randall was dropped off in the Lioncrest subdivision in Richmond Park, and the mother of another student at his school later found him wandering the subdivision. The mother said the bus driver dropped her son off in the wrong place. My child's safety was at risk, says Chiquita Harris. The school dropped the child off at the wrong location with no adult supervision, just walked away. She was waiting for her son at the correct stop, and the kid never came. And so this is in Richmond Park. This doesn't have anything to do with the story we're talking about right now. But she said she called the school, and it's interesting what the school said, and I can't get to it. But the school she was waiting. The woman who answered the phone told her not to worry and that the bus would get there. A few minutes later, the school called her back to say Kadir had been found. When another mom found him crying and wandering around the subdivision, the school district there, Matson, Illinois, Matson School District, said the case shouldn't have happened. Said the district has teachers riding the buses for the first week of classes to make sure kids get off at the correct stop.